Blinded by personal loss and a desire for vengeance, Andros, the Red Space Ranger, commits a grave error by teaming up with the Gold Omega Ranger, who controls death itself. This catastrophic mistake becomes his greatest lesson, forging him through crisis to overcome his wrath and finally embody the heroic ideals he had once forsaken. This is his story in the comics. Following the war against Zordon's people, Jason, now the Red Omega Ranger, makes a bold proclamation to the rest of the galaxy. He sends a signal blaring throughout the universe, establishing his Rangers as protectors of all worlds, and warns all threats against harming the innocent. On the war-torn planet KO-35, a hooded Andros is seen receiving the transmission. Soon thereafter, the Omegas receive a distress signal from Andros' homeworld, prompting Jason and Yale to investigate. The duo find themselves in the aftermath of a genocide, as Darkonda's hired troops discover the Rangers' arrival. A fight quickly breaks out, with Jason and Yale displaying their prowess with their Ranger powers. When the last remaining soldier attempts to flee, he is shot in the neck by a hidden Andros. He quickly reveals his identity as a Power Ranger, and asks the two other Rangers for help in saving the rest of his people. Trekking for 36 hours, the heroes find the invading forces' main base, in which all of the prisoners are being held. Andros reveals that Dark Spectre is behind the destruction of KO-35, as Zordon was helping them upgrade their Ranger powers. He and Zane are the surviving members of this Ranger team, and they were designed to help strengthen this part of space against the forces of evil. The trio then begin their operation, with Andros morphing into a stealth version of his Ranger suit. Chapter 2: An Unexpected Loss. To save his people, Andros assaults the enemy base, along with Jason and Yale. However, the Red Space Ranger's methods are extreme, going for the kill on the guards instead of focusing on the rescue mission at hand. As Jason tries to rein in the bloodlust, Yale arrives with backup, having freed and armed the imprisoned. With Darkonda's troops defeated, the KO-35 survivors find and plan to pilot an enemy ship off-planet. Meanwhile, Andros sets the next mission, retrieving the Astro Megaship, which contains all of the Ranger tech developed so far, including the rest of the Space Ranger morphers. If all of that were to fall into Dark Spectre's hands, it would endanger the Morphin grid itself. With this, Jason agrees to help, but a conversation with his own people reveals that Andros isn't telling the whole story. He promises that his next step will not only save his best friend Zane, but will also make Dark Spectre pay for his war crimes. As the last of his people depart KO-35, Jason tries to comfort Andros by promising to help him however he can. Andros then takes one last look at his home, before stepping through a teleportation tunnel to the Omega Ranger's base. There, Jason is hit with unexpected news. His mother, back on Earth, is dead. Chapter 3: An Alliance with Death. With the rest of the Rangers going back to Earth to bury and mourn Jason's mother, the task of finding out where the Astro Megaship has been taken falls to Andros. Despite the questioning, Darkonda's lone soldier mocks the Red Space Ranger, taunting him with the deaths of his people. Yet, Andros is undeterred and directs the robot Z away while he interrogates the detainee in secret. Morphing once again into his stealth suit, Andros lays a savage beating onto the soldier, forcing him to reveal the coordinates of the starship. With that, the prisoner is sentenced to a space dumpster and carted off to be stored with all of the other beings the Omega Rangers have captured for a time of rehabilitation. However, Andros has cut a deal with the alien, promising his freedom in exchange for access to the prison vault. After reneging on their agreement and killing the soldier, Andros has finally achieved his real goal. In his desire to punish Dark Spectre and his allies for attacking KO-35, Andros has done the unthinkable. A lone voice reaches out to him from the dark, tinged with temptation. This mysterious voice promises to help him destroy the evil plaguing the universe, and all the Ranger has to do in return is to unseal their vessel. The seduction complete, Andros unchains the jar, reaches inside, and unveils the Gold Omega Morpher. Do you have a passion and want to make videos about it? Check out my guide to becoming a content creator, filled with everything I wish I knew before I started. Chapter 4: Deal with the Devil. With the powerful Gold Omega Morpher in hand, Andros presses on towards his goal, retrieving the Astro Megaship from Darkonda's forces. He tries to dissuade Jason, Zach, and Trini from following on the mission, but the now Omega Rangers insist on helping. Utilizing Andros' stealth suit, space surfboard, and the Omegazords, the 5 Rangers attack the enemy shipyard. By destroying the main shield generator, Jason, Andros, and Yale are able to teleport into the Astro Megaship to begin seizing control. During the ensuing melee, Jason asks Andros why he has been using his stealth suit and not his Red Space Ranger form. Andros reveals that when he first became a Power Ranger, he was filled with pride and hubris that he could take on threats single-handedly. When KO-35 is invaded and destroyed, he found out that he was wrong. Consequently, Andros vowed to not morph again until all of his mistakes were corrected. With that, the Stealth Ranger disappears into the shadows, leaving the red and blue Omega Rangers to fight for themselves. Breaching a locked section of the Astro Megaship, Andros uncovers a cryogenic chamber housing the dead Zane, and slips on him the forbidden Omega Morpher. This apparently revives the Silver Space Ranger, but in reality it is the dangerous Death Ranger instead. Chapter 5. The Wound. To understand Andros' betrayal, we must go back to his beginning. When Darkonda kills his parents and kidnaps Karone, Andros is just a boy. He takes comfort in the aftermath with his best friend Zane, who himself was already an orphan. Taking refuge with the Space Rangers aboard the Astro Megaship, Andros finds himself a part of a makeshift family. To give all of the kids hope, the Rangers regale them with tales of the Power Rangers of old, particularly that of the Gold Omega Ranger, who was rumored to possess the power to revive the dead. While Zane is optimistic and hopeful, the sullen Andros never gives up on his missing sister. Thus, the two join the Planetary Defense Syndicate, training together to use the Syndicate's resources to track down Karone. When they are surprised with the opportunity to become new Space Rangers, Andros refuses, believing that his never-ending quest for his sister would not allow him to devote full attention to the people he will swear to protect. Later, Zane joins Andros in confronting a resurfaced Darkonda, only for the monster to claim that his sister is dead, cut down by Astronema herself. All seemed lost, until a child's toy similar to one owned by Karone prompts Andros to finally embrace the fact that he can be the Red Space Ranger, not just for his sister, but for everyone that he loves. Together, Zane and Andros become an inseparable pair, until the invasion of KO-35 by Dark Spectre. In the battle, Zane takes a fatal blow and is then cryogenically frozen by Andros, who recalls the tale of the Gold Omega Ranger. To revive his best friend and save his people, Andros decides that he must do whatever it takes. Chapter 6. Zombies. Jason is immediately suspicious of the reanimated Zane. His fears are confirmed when the possessed Silver Ranger fires on the space station, killing everyone on board. Jason demands to know who he is, only to have an eerie voice reply that they are the Gold Omega Ranger, someone who Jason did not know existed. Andros explains that they are a storied ranger from the past, one who had conquered death itself. With their power, he hopes to resurrect all of the people that died on KO-35, including Zane. However, Jason instinctively knows that the Gold Ranger offers false hope, and that Andros made this decision out of a need for vengeance and not justice. In the middle of trying to convince the Red Space Ranger, Jason is stabbed in the back and dies. The Gold Omega Ranger reveals that they require the use of a stronger main host than Zane, and with that, slips their morpher onto Jason's body. Meanwhile, Zack and Trini are tracking the Astro Megaship as they make their way back to KO-35. When they land, they are confronted with a zombie army of dead citizens, as well as a controlled Yale and a fully possessed Jason. As the Death Ranger and their undead forces fight with Trini and Zack, Andros slowly realizes that he has made a huge mistake. He opens a portal back to Safe Haven and jumps through. Once protected, Andros berates himself for being foolish enough to think that he could control the Death Ranger, and sets course for Earth to seek the help of Zordon and the Power Rangers. Chapter 7. Civil War. The Death Ranger has seized control of the rest of the Omega Rangers, utilizing Jason as their main host. Along with a puppeted Zane and the reanimated bodies of KO-35 citizens, the Gold Ranger who can control death itself is building a grand army that threatens the entire universe. Andros lays all of this out for the Mighty Morphin team in the command center on Earth. While the rest of the Rangers jump in to help solve the mission, Tommy steps back with caution and demands to know why they should all believe Andros. The Red Space Ranger agrees with Tommy's doubt, but when he offers that he would give up his own life to save the captive Rangers if needed, Tommy decides to trust him. Morphing and arriving on KO-35, they are greeted by the Death Ranger, who immediately begins to try manipulating them into joining their cause. When the Power Rangers refuse, the two sides clash. The Mighty Morphin team struggles with fighting against their own trusted teammates, careful to not cause permanent injuries, but also not wanting to be killed themselves. Meanwhile, Andros is faced with his own trial, fighting against the people of KO-35, as well as the whole reason he's in this mess in the first place, his best friend, Zane. The Death Ranger tries to use their knowledge of Jason's deepest thoughts to their advantage in the battle with Tommy, telling him that Jason resents the former Green Ranger for stealing the White Ranger powers, and that Tommy does not deserve to be the leader. When that doesn't work, they escalate the fight by summoning the Ultra Gold Omegazord. Chapter 8: The Power Within. The arrival of the Ultra Gold Omegazord prompts the Power Rangers to summon the Dragon Zord and the Thunder Megazord. It's 2 versus 1 as Matthew Cook, the new Green Ranger, pilots the Dragon Zord and unveils new attacks, but the powered-up Omegazord proves to be an equal match. Similarly, on the ground, it is the Death Ranger versus Tommy and Andros, with the White Ranger attempting to distract the Avatar of Death by offering up his own body in exchange for that of his friends. Andros shoots a grid-disrupting cannon at the possessed Jason in an attempt to free him from the Death Ranger's control, but misses. As the evil Omega Ranger taunts the duo, Andros grabs them from behind and does something he hasn't done in a long time: morph into the Red Space Ranger. The burst of grid energy from the morphing sequence is enough to break the connection between Jason and the Death Ranger, sending their psyches deep into the Morphin grid itself. What follows is a series of memories from Jason's past. The first time he won against Goldar from atop the Dino Megazord, the arrival of Power Rangers from across time during the Shattered Grid War, the last time he spoke to his mother before she died. In each one, the Death Ranger attempts to speak through Jason's loved ones to coerce him to give up, while Andros hurtles through, pushing him to continue the journey. When Jason finally regains his sense of self, he gathers up all of his energy into his fist and shatters the Death Ranger's morpher, breaking their hold on him forever. Chapter 9: End of an Era. Jason and Andros may have freed everyone from the Death Ranger's control, but the battle is far from finished. While the possessed recover from the trauma of being forced to fight against their own friends, the Dragon Zord and Thunder Megazord actively engage with the Ultra Gold Omegazord. Untethered from their morpher, the powerful Zord now serves as the Death Ranger's conduit to reality. As the battle between Mecha grows in favor of the side of the undead, Matthew Cook, the new Green Ranger, suggests a crazy idea. Billy agrees with his plan, and the Thunder Megazord and Dragon Zord combine, forming the Dragon Thunder Zord. This new combination multiplies the power and abilities of the original Zords, and a strike from the now Dragon Saber is able to separate the Gold Omegazord from the Ultra Zord. As the Death Ranger's Zord dissipates, they promise to return. 1 week later, the Mighty Morphin Rangers are set to return to Earth. Billy has helped Andros stabilize Zane inside his cryogenic chamber once again, and surmises that perhaps by absorbing enough grid energy over time, Zane may regain consciousness. Yet, change is upon us, as Jason reveals that the actions that Andros took to free him from the Death Ranger have also severed his connection to his Red Omega Ranger powers. While he is unsure of whether he would ever regain his abilities, Trini urges Jason to use this opportunity to go back to Earth to spend time with his father, as they both still mourn the loss of Jason's mom. With that, Trini takes up the mantle of the Red Omega Ranger, and Jason is set up for his eventual return as the Gold Zeo Ranger. In the end, Andros has stepped through the crucible, having encountered a crisis of faith about being a Power Ranger. Although he made many mistakes along the way, he is now more ready than ever to resume the quest of finding his long-lost sister. The deadly alliance with the Death Ranger serves as a devastating but vital lesson. Andros overcomes his blinding vengeance and finally earns the mantle of a hero who defends life, rather than be someone who cannot accept death. For more Power Rangers lore, check out this video where I talk about all of the new characters in the comics that I find fascinating, including a look into the origins of the Death Ranger. Consider hyping this video, along with a like if that option is available to you. Subscribe, and stay tuned for more from Morphin Shorts.